Yo, what is going on, guys? Cryptic TMG back with a brand new video, and this is my first race in the Aston Martin. We're on the Bahrain outer loop, which is such a fun circuit, man, quickly becoming one of my favorite circuits. But this was a mixed race. There's also hypercars in this race, and guys, let me tell you, this race gets extremely crazy because the way the hypercars come through, they're so aggressive, man. So super tight off the line. The Aston gets a good start. It's got decent straight line speed. Probably not the most rotation on fixed setups, but you know, I thought I'll give it a try. I wanted to see how the tyre wear was, wanted to see how the car was over a stint. The fuel is on times 200, so we're definitely gonna have to make a pit stop, and yeah, let's see how we get on. So we were 8 tenths slower than the car in front, 7 tenths slower than the car behind. So at the moment, we're losing touch with the guys in front, and the guy in the Aston behind was actually catching us. He was pretty quick, man, and I was literally struggling to get the car turned. So I start trying to, you know, play with my TC settings to try and get the car to rotate more because I was struggling so much with the rotation. The Porsches were just rapid through the middle, man. You couldn't do anything to keep up with them, and they seem to get insane acceleration out the corner. So you can see my brake bias is pretty rearwards. You know, I probably could have went down on the slip, but this was the section where the car would be a little bit unstable, and we've cut the corner there. We're gonna get a big penalty for that one, and as you guys can see, it actually goes green on the second part. So I thought I was literally going to get the biggest cut, but I actually went green. Again, you know, on a half decent lap this time, but the guy in the Aston is still keeping up with us. We couldn't really pull away. It was literally 2 Astons versus the world of Porsches, and to be honest, man, it was very hard to keep up with him. As you can see, the leader doing 13.4s. We come across the line doing a 13.9, so half a second slower. And yeah, I would say with the Aston at the moment, the default setup is just not the best. If they could tweak that a little bit, I feel like it will be more competitive in races. I believe the fastest race lap at the moment is a 1 minute 12.9. The fastest time in the Aston is a 13.3, so about 4 tenths off. So if they could sort of address that balance a little bit, the Aston becomes way more viable for these races. But I was still having fun. It's pretty nice to drive. It's just a little understeery, and you know, against some of the other cars like the BMW, the Porsche, it's going to struggle, particularly on this circuit where through this section, the car has to be quite nimble, you know. You're gonna have to get the car pretty loose to try and, you know, get the car to rotate through the corners, or else you're just gonna struggle to be quick. Coming up to the end of the lap, you can see the guys fighting in front. This is our chance to try and close them down. On this game, whenever someone's fighting, you lose so much time when you go side by side. So I was trying to get on the back of them, but to be honest, man, I really just didn't have a lot of pace. I was literally only really hanging on, just about staying in the 1:13, trying to keep up with these guys in front, and they're fighting and literally still doing low 14. So this was my chance. I don't believe that the Aston was particularly strong on the brakes. It was decent, nothing special, but the hypercars were coming soon. You can see them on the mini-map. They're not that far behind us, so they're going to be coming through the pack soon. So I really wanted to get onto the back of the Porsches and try and get close to them, see if I could take any advantage if one of the hypercars comes through and maybe cost them time, because it was very hard to stay close to him. But this is such a nice section, man. I honestly believe this is my favorite track on the game at the moment, man. I loved Interlagos when that came out, but just the flow of this circuit is nice and short. You have overtaking opportunities, and it's just a fun circuit to drive, man. And at the moment, Le Mans just feels great. It just feels so great to do these races. Loads of battles, loads of different strategies, as you'll see in this race. It's not as straightforward as just jump on and just floor it. There is strategy to it. You can see everyone's fuel on the top left, and I was doing okay on fuel. The guy in front of me was slightly better. The guy behind slightly had a little bit more fuel than me, but still, as I get closer, if I could keep up with them, I would definitely start saving fuel, because, you know, saving fuel for one extra lap is worth about 2.5 seconds. So the more fuel you can save, the more laps you can save, you're definitely going to have a shorter pit stop. But it's for you to work out how much virtual energy you need. And here come the hypercars, and literally I got the hypercar down the inside at the wrong time. You always want to get taken on the straight, or, you know, when you don't need. You can see how close the Aston is to us, and now the Ferrari comes through as well. And this is the problem, man. They always get you right when you're in the braking zone, and that's what sort of splits you up from the pack sometimes. If you can get a car overtaking you at the right time, then it's nice, you get a chance to get past the guy in front. If you get it at the wrong time, you're probably going to end up defending. An aggressive move by the guy in the BMW Hypercar puts off the Porsche in front of me, so I gain a position up to 5th. We just managed to get in front of the Porsche, and as you can see, these Hypercars, they're literally just throwing it on the inside of us, and you kind of just have to try and stay out of the way. As you see another Hypercar come back on the track, and it's getting so dangerous, man. These guys were absolutely diving us. They did not care. And sometimes what I notice is the guys at the back of the Hypercar field or towards the middle that are super aggressive. Normally the leaders of the Hypercars are pretty respectful, pretty clean, because they want to win their race and their class, so they're trying to be a bit more careful. The guys at the back are trying to battle, so they are literally just absolutely sending it, and it always makes it very, very sketchy, man. Sometimes you get guys that are good and they will wait behind you. Other guys, bro, they just absolutely send you, and you can't do anything about it because they're so much quicker, you know? We were on for our fastest lap, got absolutely dive bombed. As you can see, Pereira in the Aston Martin behind us actually opts for the earlier pit stop, so he's going to refuel his virtual energy, and I wasn't even aware of this at the time. I didn't even realize he had pitted behind me. I thought maybe he got killed, so I wasn't even aware that this guy had pitted. So my focus was on the Porsche ahead, trying to stay on the back of the Porsche. It felt like his tires were dying and I could really stay with him, and I thought actually I might have had the pace on him, so my focus was really on trying to get in front of the car that's in front of me, and hoping that if any more hypercars come through, they can catch him at the right time. That might give me an opportunity, because it was so hard to get the run out of the corners to get onto the back of the Porsche. But me, I've tried the Porsche and I can tell you that it is pretty slippery. The back end does step out a little bit, so you got to kind of be careful. I would imagine that the tire wear is pretty high if you're not driving the car correctly. So that was my focus, man. I felt like I was doing a pretty good job, but at the same time, every time I would get close, something would happen where I would lose time. But you know, I just had to keep plugging along, and hopefully I would be able to catch him or whatever, anything like that. My lap times weren't too bad, man. The leaders, we were kind of lapping pretty similar, so I was kind of happy with the pace. But I just need to find that extra 2-3 tenths that would have got me like really in the mix, and then I'll be happy with my pace. As you can see, this guy keeps on running wide at turn 1, and I thought I might be able to get a nice running him through up into turn 3, but it was so difficult, man, so difficult to overtake. He was doing a decent job on the exits for the most part, but he did seem to be struggling at turn 1. But this was the section where I just could not catch him. The way the car just, you know, is so nimble through this section, and this is where it struggled. I believe the Aston is more stable into this chicane, and that's where I was able to make up some time. But again, the nimbleness through the sort of left-right, he just pulls away, and there was literally nothing I could do about it. Great exit from turn 1 and turn 2. Could I get a run on the Porsche? Also, the hypercars were coming through at the same time, so I knew it was going to be tricky. Couldn't outbrake the Porsche. At the same time, I knew I was probably going to get past at an awkward position here. Or would the hypercar behind wait? No, he's probably going to try to go around the outside. And it's very tight, man. You don't want to be the car on the inside where you get side contact, because normally it ends with you spinning on the inside. And again, as you can see, just out of that corner, the Porsche always gets the run. I wasn't too sure which side the BMW was going to go there, so I tried to go left to leave the inside open, but then he went to the outside. So, you know, luckily, you know, managed to get through the corner. But again, you can always see the hypercars, they always catch you at an awkward time. So luckily the Toyota goes past on the straight, but you can see the other hypercars about 3 seconds behind. Would they catch us by turn 1? That's always what I'm thinking. Are they going to catch me before the next corner and be in between me and the car in front? Because it always tends to mess me up every time I've done these mixed class races. It's so difficult, man, because you just never know whether they're going to dive you or whether they're going to be patient. But you can see we've only got about 2.7 laps worth of virtual energy. I slightly overfueled the car with normal fuel. And, you know, this is one of the important things when it comes to LMU is the virtual energy and the fuel ratio. You have to get them spot on. It's not like ACC where, you know, if you overfuel by, I don't know, 3-4 laps, it's not a problem. It's just whatever. It's definitely not like that on the LMU. You need to get your virtual energy perfect because, you know, as I said before, it costs you time in the pits. As I said, one extra lap of fuel or virtual energy is literally worth about 2.5 seconds. So realistically, you don't want to overfuel your car in the pit lane, because you're just literally costing yourself extra time that is going to be very hard to make up, especially when you and the cars around you are lapping at a similar pace. And as you can see now, we've got 2 laps maximum, so this is going to be very tight to whether I can get an extra lap out of it. If I can do the extra lap, then I could probably jump this guy in the pits, because if you look at our percentage, I've got 9%, he's got 7%, so I knew he had to pit this lap. So if he could pit, and then possibly I could jump up into a podium position, because I think there's a Porsche that already pitted in front of us. So I was thinking, yo, if I could get a podium in the Aston, I'm happy, I'm taking it. So as I went over the line, you saw the virtual energy actually tick to 1. So this is actually going to be way too tight. And the problem is now, as I realized that, I'm going to have to save fuel on this in-lap. And realistically, I wanted to be absolutely hammering it on this in-lap. And unfortunately, we ended up having to save fuel. And I feel like my fuel ratio maybe was slightly wrong, because obviously we still got 3.2 laps of normal fuel, which you kind of want to make it so your fuel ratio and your normal fuel are absolutely in tandem. So, you know, if my fuel ratio is 0.6, I kind of want my normal fuel to be 0.6 as well. And that's where I should have worked out my fuel ratio, so it would have been a lot closer, because then you're just carrying extra fuel for no real reason, you know. And as you can see, we're down to 2%, so I'm gonna have to start saving. And look at my lap delta, I'm a second down on my fastest lap. So any extra time I wanted to gain in the pit lane, I've sort of negated that because of how much slower my in-lap is. You can see I've literally cost myself, I would say, probably about 1.4 seconds on this in-lap. Slightly safe coming in, but yeah, now we're into the pit stop, and I feel like I miscalculated how many laps were left of the race, and of course that is just all gonna cost us time. And in the pit lane, the pit stops are absolutely crucial. It's nothing like ACC, it's nothing where there's just a set time. your actions before the pit lane, your actions in your calculations affect your pit stop time. And I'm telling you guys, man, it is the worst when you get a pit stop wrong, because you know you've literally thrown away the race. And I can see my pit stop was 24 seconds. And I was thinking, yo, please don't take too much fuel. I didn't feel like I worked it out properly. But as you can see, some of the other cars around me, 60, 65%, so 62, I thought, I've done a decent job here. Would I get out anywhere near? And no, I got out in 4th, and I don't know what the Porsche did. He must have had a great pit stop, because he's gone. Literally 4 seconds down the road. And the guy in the Aston behind us who pitted early, I forgot all about him, and he's right behind us. So we're coming out of the pits on cold tires, he's on warm tires. And bro, if you know what it's like coming out on cold tires, you know there's just not a lot of grip, and we lock up, we go slightly deep, and now he's on us. And I was defending for my life, but look at the run he gets round the outside. Can he make it stick? Such a difficult corner to get round at full speed, but he sent it, pushes us off the track. We have to cut the track, otherwise we probably would have ended up spinning. But then it tells me I have to give the position back, and of course if you don't give the position back, then you end up getting a drive-through. So it was kind of naughty what he did, because I mean, he pushed us off the track, but it forced me to give the position back. And obviously in the same car, it's going to be pretty tricky to get the overtake back on him. But once the tires warm up, I felt like I had a bit of pace, a little bit of front damage. Not sure how much that would affect the speed, because it just says yellow. It's just a generic color. It doesn't actually give you any information on how badly the car's damaged or anything like that. But you know, the car didn't feel too bad. And again, I definitely need to get smarten up with the math when it comes to, you know, picking your fuel and making sure your fuel was correct, because, you know, I felt like I should have been a little bit further down the road. I should have been much closer to the Porsche, and I wasn't. I was well behind, so didn't really understand that one. But we're in 5th place at the minute, trying to battle the guy in the Aston, and I'm trying to take the line that he took, but it's definitely much more difficult when you're behind someone and you get in that dirty air. It's pretty tricky to follow, man, and this chicane when you're behind people is very hard. So just under 8 minutes to go, we've kind of been losing touch with their Aston in front. Again, when you just get traffic at the wrong time, it's very, very hard. And I'm not too sure what the guy in the Mustang was doing. He was a lap down, but he had decent pace, but he wasn't really trying to get out the way, which it was kind of throwing me off because I didn't really know what to expect. Was he going to be dirty? Was he just going to try and hold me up for no reason, or try and race when we're not really in a race anymore? I'm not too sure, but he must have got binned near the beginning because his pace wasn't too bad. So I'm not too sure what happened there. But again, you can see the Hypercars sending it everywhere they can. I was hoping that the Hypercar would send it in difficult places for the Aston so I could actually catch up. But with the Mustang in between us, it was kind of, you know, giving him sort of a safety net and really not allowing me to, you know, get onto the back of him anyway. But his pace was pretty good in the Aston. I was finding it tricky to keep up with the tires, but you know, the last corner can be a tricky corner. You saw the Aston going wide there, and sometimes, you know, don't be scared to flick it down into first and then straight back up into second to get the nose in. Sometimes I don't even like doing that, but you know, in a race situation where your tires are sort of on the way out, you can't be too afraid to, you know, go down, flick it to first just to get the car's nose in and then straight back up to second. And as you can see, I get absolutely dive bombed at turn one. I have to take a really wide entry to let them through, and then the Aston is probably going to get overtaken on the straight and not lose any time, which is always the thing that you dread, because, you know, losing time in corners, that's where it's going to affect you the most. So on to the last lap. Really couldn't do anything about Pereira in front. And I was thinking, yo, if there's an extra lap, he is absolutely screwed because he's on 5% lower than me. So I'm not too sure what he's going to do. And if you actually look at our pace wasn't bad at all. And to be honest, Pereira's pace and Aston, his pace was pretty good too. We never really, after the pit stop, we never really lost too much to the leaders. It was kind of around 10 seconds the whole time. I just feel like the initial pace of the Porsche is just a little bit quicker, you know. And, you know, just minor tweaks, I believe. Minor tweaks in the default setup for the Aston would definitely get it there. Again, I just feel like it's just rotation, and that's all it is. It's just that feeling of the car not being able to turn is what probably lets the Aston down. Of course, the fastest guys, if I was in the lobby with the fastest guys, then I feel you see like more of a disparity between the cars. But in this lobby, I feel like, you know, everyone had pretty much, you know, close enough pace. As you can see, the Porsches and stuff, they're still a little bit quicker, but it's not crazy, you know. And we come across the line. Luckily, it was the last lap because I would have had to save like crazy. And we come home in 5th. Yo, that was a good race, man. Like, so much strategy involved. Even sometimes you be racing someone, you forget that you're in a race with them. And then all of a sudden, as Pereira did, comes out of absolutely nowhere and ends up bullying us off the track a little bit. And he gets the 4th position. I wanted to finish as the top Aston, but, you know, I couldn't do it in the end. But such a great race. Trust me, guys. If you haven't got Le Mans Ultimate, get Le Mans Ultimate. It's definitely worth it. The Bahrain Outer Circuit, probably the most fun circuit in the game right now. So trust me, man, it is worth the buy. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. But anyway, guys, Cryptic Teams, you like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to catch my videos first. And peace.
Body.